The being that can access the powers of every creature, animal in the universe. The being that has the power of every animal, everything animal related. Because he's connected to this thing known as the red, I'm going to repeat a lot throughout this video. He can literally transform. He has different forms. He can mix the different animals he turns into one hybrid super animal. And this is like some horror movie stuff, him using different animals like this. Animal Man is a being that has faced threats so powerful to where they was basically forced, along with others, like to counter this being's darkness and stuff, they had to create their very own universe in order to trap this certain being in a universe of their imagining. Like they had to imagine a universe, create a universe to trap this being. So that lets you know, without even the video really getting started yet, he's much more than just animal manipulation. You know, he's 1/3 the power needed to create his own universe, thanks to him being connected to this extra dimensional power source known as the red. Animal Man. Super senses, something else I'm gonna bring up a lot in this video, and he can literally turn into a polar bear to use the polar bear's super senses. He can mimic the rage of a Wolverine. One could say he's a shapeshifter via shapeshifting, getting his own claws. Animal Man. I hope you guys enjoy this vid. In DC Comics, the universe or multiverse, there's heroes everywhere, superpowers everywhere. There's different comics in different eras. It's easy to forget about there's certain characters that exist that might not get as much screen time in this post-crisis era. You know, because there's different eras in DC via different crises, like the Crisis on Infinite Earths event, where the multiverse is in jeopardy, different universes get changed, people's origins get retconned or changed. But today I'm going to focus on this character known as Animal Man in the post-crisis era. But when it comes to Animal Man, apparently he was not affected by the crisis, because he's a living paradox. See, the way this DC universe or multiverse operates is that there's like a lot of different energy fields. One of these fields that you're probably used to is the Speed Force, for example. Like it's got its very own Speed Force wall. Like there's other stuff other than like energy stuff like this. It's no surprise based on the title of this video and this being's name being Animal Man, there's no surprise that, you know, he can get the power of different animals, strong as a gorilla stated here, swim like a sea lion, stuff like that, like animal creatures. He has the powers of, that's his superpowers. He can mimic it, absorb new ones. Stated he was the man with animal powers. That's why you're probably going to see a lot of stuff like this throughout this video of him literally being able to box it up with bigger creatures than himself, stuff he shouldn't be able to do for a normal human. He's Animal Man. This guy known as Buddy Baker, Mr. Baker, in his lore, when it comes to how he got his powers to be like basically the Animal Man, it was because of this explosion apparently he got hit with and woke up. And that's when he discovered, in this particular occasion with this tiger, he was able to do out of the ordinary stuff like dodge it, leaping in the air with agility. He was confused himself. He was like, wait, what about these animal powers? There was an explosion, an alien explosion. And they say, of course, the radiation glow must have affected him in some way, giving him the characteristics of any animal in his general vicinity. This is basically explaining on how he's connected to this cosmic force or this energy field, similar to how characters like the Flash get their power source from, you know, this energy field like the Speed Force. This is sort of the same concept, but in a different way when it comes to being connected to animals or creatures and stuff with Animal Man. Like, because he's connected to this thing known as the Red. One could say his powers are kind of mystical to some degree because he's chilling in a place where it's only mystical people allowed, kind of. Well, a place where all the magic types hang out at, and he's here. This could give you some lore on how his powers and stuff work. The nature of them is kind of mystical in nature, if that makes sense. They literally talk about attuned to Earth's morphogenic field. In earlier comics, they pretty much called the Red the morphogenic field. And this is how he gets his power. This is how he's connected to all these different creatures. I'm going to mention this again, but it was pretty much confirmed that he has improved with his power over time because there was a point where he thought he had to be near the creature, but it's confirmed later on he doesn't actually have to be near to absorb its power. His range ends up being pretty much limitless. His power comes from this red, this life field itself. This is where your animal powers come from the field itself. The field is a mesh of countless smaller fields, each one a blueprint which guides the formation of atoms into molecules, molecules into cells, cells into tissues, organs, systems. So I think when you see pictures like this, and this, it's perfectly symbolic to what he can do. So naturally, after all this being said, of course he's one of the most versatile characters. There's a lot of creatures on this planet that can do a lot of different versatile things. It's natural. He has incredible survivability. Like, I'm talking about just overall durability, surviving stuff he shouldn't, based on his powers of animal abilities, being able to, like, use the invulnerability of certain creatures, at least gain more durability than usual thanks to certain creatures, to survive big explosive impacts. Or if he does actually get severely injured, like completely losing a limb, for example, like I'm talking about his arm actually being gone, he uses his connection to different creatures, reaches out and gets the abilities of earthworms so he can regenerate his whole arm. Like, he even lost a scar. Like, he got a completely new arm. He has like mystical-esque type ways to kind of, one could say, bring himself back thanks to the red, the morphogenic field. Like if his body gets messed up, he can kind of reform it by mixing in a whole bunch of ingredients of different creatures, because he has a theory about that we're all the same, but we just different ingredients mixed up in different ways and stuff. Like, the different creatures. Notice how these panels conveniently are red. You see what I mean? He basically reformed his body thanks to basically using a hybrid of different creatures to reform himself into looking like this, like a hybrid of a whole bunch of different creatures. People thinking that he's the devil, looking scary type of stuff, But then after this scenario, looking like a hybrid demon, every creature known to man mixed in one type of metamorphosis fusion being, he was able to do this again and actually successfully remake his body accurately to the way it should be, not just being a hybrid of different creatures. So he has multiple ways of bringing himself back, either just with mimicking powers that can regenerate or just literally reforming his whole body. He doesn't even know how he did it in this particular situation, but like this has to be something to do with the red or the morphogenic field, because what animal can do this? Or maybe an alien creature can do it, He can repair beings' damaged bodies, not just himself. Thanks to him being able to reach into this field, he has ways to increase his reaction time, or just one could say fighting speed. Like, for example, he talks about how all animals experience time at different rates. The smaller the animal, the shorter its life, the more slowly it's experienced the passage of time. So he reaches into the field, he absorbs the time perception of a fly, and the world goes into slow motion. Like a film running down, my reaction time is multiplied by 10. So he has ways to increase his fighting speed. And when it comes to the speed of different creatures, he can obviously borrow their speed too. He can run far faster than the fastest humans in the world by going 75 miles per hour. Is it really surprising that he can use different creatures' abilities to fly? Like literally using the powers of a hawk to fly. Like kind of like a blur, might I add. I mean, look at this effect. It's implying he's moving like a blur. That's why when you try to shoot him, he can just zip around you faster than you would be able to hit him. And he can swim fast thanks to the different creatures, like making himself be able to swim like a shrimp. That's how he can save people really fast. Can increase his agility with the agility of a cat. Or just get the strength or power of a flea to the point where you can jump absurdly high. You know how high fleas can jump. He can basically become Spider-Man because he can get all the powers of a spider. He can absorb the powers of creatures and also absorb the fighting skills of them. Animal Man, just like a lot of other characters, there's implications he's gotten stronger over time via learning his abilities, getting better with his powers, having a more connection to the red. Because back in the earlier days, it seemed like he had certain limitations, but the farther he gets down his career, it seems like his power increased and he can do greater stuff. Like in really early comics, it was talked about how he can reach out a mile away or half a mile away to get the or absorb the power of certain creatures and such. It was believed that he needed to be in a certain vicinity of creatures, but this seems to be no longer a factor because his powers over the time seems to have gotten amplified. Like in this particular occasion, it's literally just straight up stated, let me think, snake. Like there's no implication that this snake is anywhere near him and he's still able to do this weird snake-like stuff. Like in this particular occasion, it's literally stated and pretty much confirmed that he can pretty much tap into like different powers. Like look at his eyes. Scans like this imply that he can access any animal in the universe. Like look how it just stretches across the different planets, the different creatures across the planets in the universe. Like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the red, the morphogenic field, basically the same thing. They call it the morphogenic field, the red back in the day. Yep. It was pretty much confirmed you don't need to be near an animal to absorb its power. His range is pretty much limitless. Like I'm talking about, he can pull abilities from different creatures in different star systems, guys, and that's what gives him other versatile abilities people don't predict. Because it was believed that he only has access to the earthly aspect of the red, the Earth's morphogenic field. But after being in space for a year, he has also adjusted to accessing the universal morphogenic field, the red from on a universal scale. Every animal he's ever encountered, including the ones he's met in space and the ones that they've encountered and so on, they're all at his fingertips. Stuff like this implies that he has gotten stronger over time thanks to his adventures, stuff like that. It's classic comic book anime stuff, getting stronger over the adventures, getting stronger as time goes by, learning your abilities better, So over time, his versatility just gets scarier. He can transmit warning signals to dolphins to make them move away. Like he can speak an alien language. Let me go over his versatile abilities now that you know that he's pretty much limitless when it comes to the range of different abilities he can absorb powers from. Can basically go invisible, or one could say camouflage, thanks to him using the powers of a chameleon. Can shoot ink like an octopus. Okay, some of this stuff is just straight up full-blown mystical. Because what animal can make duplicates of himself? Like in real life, if it's not a mythical creature. There are mythical creatures in DC, so technically he'll be able to mimic mythical creatures too. But in this occasion, no, this apparently wasn't him channeling the power of mystical creatures that can duplicate themselves. Like he can literally do some shadow clone jutsu right here by using bacteria. What? He thought he isolated me from the animals, but he forgot about the bacteria in his own body. I was able to absorb their self-replicating abilities. What? Even the comic says, that's outrageous. Like, what? Like right here, he was able to turn back this mind control power, turned it back on this guy. What does turning back somebody's telepathy abilities have to do with animals again? You see what I mean? He's more than animals. I'm gonna let them explain it to you. Not only does he have this guy's powers, including the power to fuse organisms into super hybrid forms, it works with rats, tigers, wolves. Why not white blood cells? So I closed my eyes and I went inside into the battleground of his bloodstream and I combined his body's own polymorphs and stuff, creating super powerful defense cells which began to attack and destroy the invading virus. This virus. Like, wait, say what again? He can basically help heal people or rid people of viruses? What? Like, it's even panels like this that even talk about how these powers that he produces, like here, for example, is not from any animal. This quite literally looks like he's mimicking the powers of Superman. He says, those weren't the abilities of any animal I remember seeing. My mind just reached out instinctively, but what did I grab? This is where his abilities and versatility gets kind of up to that absurd levels. Like in this occasion, he was in a desperate situation. He needed to be able to breathe. And he said, oh, let me copy the power of sun eaters so I can breathe. Can also survive in space by using the power of a space dolphin. Copying a fire salamander, he can squirt streams of numbing chemicals. He can definitely use different elements like electricity because of the electric eel. He has different ways of offensive abilities, electricity manipulation basically. There's even times there's alien stuff he can sync up with that can shoot lightning. So not just electric eels, but just other stuff. There's beings in different star systems that he can copy from that have abilities that can knock people out with their breath. Certain creatures, he can use fireballs, which means by default he can do fire projection. Like he just full-blown energy projector. There's times where he'll just reach out randomly and random powers he doesn't mean to come out. Like he even said it, he reached out for horse abilities but got something else. Can't even describe it. Energy blast still. He can use the energy field of the red itself to do energy type stuff. So if he can't necessarily think of an animal to use energy projection or blast or stuff like that, he can just use the energy of the red itself. Like, notice how the energy blast he does is kind of like a reddish pinkish color, reaching into the M field, the abyss of animal essence to use energy blast. Like, yeah, he's just a full-blown energy projector. Even omnidirectional red blast outwards killed every animal in the San Diego Zoo with just energy blast. And if he wants to hit you with a projectile that's not energy based, he can just do what pistol shrimps do and make his own shockwaves. He channeled the power of a pistol shrimp. They are able to snap their claws together to produce sonic blasts. It would be weird if he didn't have super senses, like he can copy dog senses. You know how dogs can smell real good. Like bats, he can do the echolocation type stuff. Use the power of alien creatures that we ain't ever heard of that can smell halfway across the planet. Yes, he has the super senses of animals he can, channel the power of, but he can literally use this energy field that helps him get the connection to the animals. Like the energy field itself, he can use it to increase his range or just look for people that way without necessarily focusing on a particular animal or something. Just because he can tune into the morphogenic field, M field, the red, this energy force that connects all animals, it's got extra perks, not just being able to sense animals. But yeah, he does sense everything creatures are doing also all the time. Clear evidence that it's not just super senses when it comes to creatures is that every time he's using the super senses of the red, it gets like a red color to it. Like the artists probably do this on purpose to let you know he is indeed connected to the red. He can see everything, not just see creatures. That red path, you know what I mean? He can sense humans, creatures, all alike because of the red. If he dies, he can literally do some horror movie type stuff and just possess or jump into the body of different creatures. Like, for example, he just possessed this bear here. The creature he possesses can kind of like scan through their memories. Like, this is kind of traumatizing. Literally seeing the perspective of different creatures and seeing their demise, but then having to jump back into your actual body. Oh, man. He can either talk to certain creatures or just straight up tell them not to attack them. Or he could just tell some bears to murk you. Like, he can either tell them what to do or just literally talk to them because he can speak their language. Like, it's a lot, like vice versa. Oh, man, I mentioned a lot of versatility, man. But so right off gate, when it comes to his strength, just based on the characters or animals that he can turn into, like, you know how DC is like fictional, but it still has similarities to some stuff in real life. Like in their universe, our same creatures exist with similar power levels. Creatures in general exist in DC. So some of that stuff you can kind of base off of real life. What the real life stuff can do, we can kind of assume Animal Man can do when it comes to raw strength, just from the creatures we know exist in real life. Not even talk about aliens or mythical creatures and stuff yet. There's plenty of examples of his raw physical strength, just muscles being amplified by his connection to the red. Like, we've literally seen him quite literally lift up a car over his head with super strength. So on occasions like this where he says he's using the power of a spider to lift up a literal Jeep, It just lets you know, yeah, he's super strong. This is with one arm too, by the way, guys. So when it comes to analyzing his strength, we just know off bare minimum, nice base start, 2-ton strength. He can easily lift up, but this is more than likely nowhere near his limit considering the different creatures he can turn into. Since DC has similar creatures to our real life stuff, he can technically mimic the weight of certain elephants, which can weigh 7 tons and they still can move. You know, this type of stuff should kind of just imply for Animal Man by default. So he should be able to lift at least 7 tons by default, or at least move it around if he mimics the strength of an elephant, which he can. Not to mention when it comes to dinosaurs, he can mimic the power of, channel the strength of a T-Rex. So T-Rexes can weigh even more than African elephants. Since he can duplicate that power, he should be able to move around while being 7 tons. If he was, you know, since he technically has that strength, he could just duplicate it. So he shouldn't have no problem moving around even if he was 9 tons, given that he can mimic the strength of a T-Rex if he just had to. So based on all the different creatures he can turn into, just mentioning those examples, stuff like lifting up a Jeep, that stuff is a lot more believable now, isn't it? But just in case you need more examples of his raw strength, look at these metal gates he can just rip off. Toss grown men this far in the air. How much leg strength or quad strength do you think you would need to be his size and weight and jump like this? So it lets you know he has superhuman physicals. There's even times where they mention nice vertical by channeling the power of a centipede from a super high gravity planet. Like a centipede from another planet, he can make himself stronger. A centipede from a planet that's used to harsher environments with more gravity. Metal walls, he can just warp like this with his raw strength. He can cause all of this mess, like this ground underneath, to collapse by digging underneath it. Yeah, he can more than likely lift over 10 tons or more and stuff, you know. Like, you got occasions like this that kind of imply he can support the weight of the T-Rex too. So, yeah, I'm not playing about that, him being able to lift at least 9 tons or something similar, several tons, you know. This is what he'll do to your guts with his raw strength. So, let you know he can just rip stuff and pop heads apart. Just like how he can duplicate the abilities of a T-Rex, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do this either. Can lift over 100 tons or close to 100 tons. They're really like 90 tons, you know what I mean? Close enough, right? With all this strength of being connected to the red, with the strength of all these different creatures, it only makes sense with all this raw muscle, he should be able to hit hard. When we're talking about strikes in general, just punching hard or kick really hard, just striking power in general, like there's weight behind his swings when he swings stuff and throws stuff at beings. Like, I'm not even talking about like him using energy projection and stuff from the red and stuff. I'm just talking about straight striking power from the creatures. We got plenty of examples here and there of him shattering different stuff, like, you know, Mirror Masters, clones he shattered with punch. We've seen him actually punch and KO an actual T-Rex. Like, there's serious weight behind his punches. When he punches beings, he also sends concrete flying with his hits. This occasion, along with this occasion when he punches this being with some crazy force, using elephant strength, he hits him to where he's flying and broke this much concrete. So it lets you know it should be a no-brainer that he should be able to punch through concrete walls at this point if he can lift several tons. All that weight, that 9-ton stuff, him able to lift the weight of a T-Rex, this should apply for his punches. Why wouldn't he be able to hit with this similar force? You know what I mean? Look at how much power he can do knocking this elevator out of this building with somebody in it. That's how much he launched it with his punch. We've seen him block strikes with the strength of an elephant. You can see how hard he can strike just by the way this car is. You know this is strength because, you know, he doesn't weigh that much. He used the power of the rhino to stop it and crush this car on the spot with his raw strikes. Also ripping off the door. He can easily lift up boats like this or just strike and tilt the whole boat over. Elephants can vary in weight. Some can weigh 7 tons. Even the heavier ones can weigh 10 tons. Like, for example, he's using a combination of a tiger and gorilla to hit this elephant. And in this comic narration, they talk about how this one in particular weighs 10 tons. And notice with his hits, he can slightly lift something like this up off the ground with his strikes. So if his punches can launch something in the air that weighs at least 10 tons, that means his hits will probably more than likely have at least 10 tons of force behind it. The weight of his fists hitting you. The same way his punches and stuff have 10 tons of force, I don't see no reason why his concussive blast, whether he's using lightning from different creatures or just the straight up energy projection that he can use from the red itself, like the actual energy field itself, he can blast at you at concussive force. He can more than likely blast you with similar force or worse to that stuff. It applies vice versa, his punches or his blasts. You know, because he has blast power. So he can blast, hit with 10 tons of force at least, right? Blast with, hit or blast. But DC Comics has a lot of powerhouses. So a better way to understand his true might is to compare him and how he performs against some of the powerhouses. Right off the gate, this shouldn't be a shock to you based on the stuff I've already told you, but he's a confirmed powerhouse in the DC universe, and we already know how the absurd striking power blast that those powerhouses have. So by default, he should be somewhere in the ballpark with some of the heaviest hitters in DC. It's implied on occasions like this with Aquaman, them fighting certain creatures. They're saying, oh man, where'd you get this strength? So yeah, he can hit hard with the heavy hitters on missions with Aquaman and stuff. A DC powerhouse. One could argue he was amped up. This is probably something he can do in his base state, but in this particular situation, he was a Black Lantern, of course, and you know Starfire is a very strong powerhouse that can lift way over hundreds and thousands of tons and stuff. and he's kind of holding her down. So it's little occasions like this when you compare him to some of the powerhouses of DC that imply that he's way above the 10-ton range in raw strength when it comes to lifting weights of hundreds of thousands of millions of tons, or punching or blasting with that kind of force. This kind of stuff implies that he's way above that kind of stuff. I mean, there's plenty of creatures he can do to amp himself up, like this car crashing into his head, and he's okay after that. Like, that's the type of stuff, like, he should be able to take whatever he can dish out, depending on the creature. Like, we've seen him scuffle with some powerhouses of DC, like even Thanagarian Gear he's been hit with. He's actually been hit by Speed Force users, like Jesse Quick, for example. So yeah, when you see him getting hit by strong beings through metal doors, for example, he's not just a glass cannon based on the different creatures. He can amp his durability up and stuff via the red or different creatures or both. You know, he's can channel the power of a creature that can resist the pull of event horizons, aka black holes. This will further confirm that, yeah, he can lift way, way more, especially depending on certain creatures. If you can withstand the pull of a black hole, you can definitely lift over hundreds of millions of tons and stuff. And not to mention, he's literally scuffled with the powerhouses of DC. It just makes sense when it comes to planet shattering, moon shattering, stuff like that. That's a common theme. So based on stuff like that with the black hole, being able to overpower the pull of a black hole, stuff like that would imply, just like other powerhouses in DC, he should be able to tremble planetoid structures like the moon, even bigger ones like the Earth itself. He should have no problem splitting. I mean, it's a common powerhouse thing. I mean, just think about it. He's gotten his fair share of scuffles with different versions of Superman throughout the universes. You know, different universes have their own versions or interpretations of Superman. He's able to survive straight up hits from beings like this that are similar to Superman. Stated, it looks like he could have the powers of Superman, but thanks to him borrowing and reaching out to the morphic field, he could borrow strength and speed to where stuff that should realistically kill him in one shot, because, you know, evil Superman could easily one shot and kill somebody. He can use his resilience of these type of things to survive hits from beings like this, dodge hits from beings this strong like this, and he can do some Looney Tunes gaggy type stuff and kind of defeat Overman to pull him into white space. Like, what? Bro, this is so gaggy. Like, he can't even win. Like, he just literally beating Superman type characters with this. I guess stuff like this can make him a powerhouse by default, having gaggy type of feats, like being able to leave comic panels and crap, looking like an actual deity, like looking at the comic book characters like they're not real, like how we're reading this, it's like he's seeing them like how we're seeing them. Yeah, but even without this gaggy stuff, like, he's still a powerhouse. I mean, he can literally duplicate the power of something that can withstand the pull of a black hole. So even without energy blast, I don't see no reason why his punches or blasts, regardless of whether they're blasts or punches, he should be able to easily destroy planets. That's like a common DC Comics thing. Somebody that can resist the pull of a black hole, imagine what those hits or strikes would feel like. So like I mentioned earlier, there is a way, the creatures that he gets the powers of are even better than actual real life creatures, it seems like. Because we don't even have to get on what Spectre can freaking do. He can survive blasts this close from the Spectre, like Energy Blast, God's Wrath itself. It pretty much backs up, he can withstand the pressures of black holes, hit out with that similar force. It kind of adds up with his narrative, so it's no reason why he wouldn't be able to destroy larger planets that are bigger than Earth, like Jupiter, like way bigger planets. He shouldn't have no problem trembling with the raw energy he can hit out with or produce, destroy bigger planets like this. Like, you just get the idea. He should be able to do that. I mean, so he can hit hard thanks to his abilities with the creatures. He can blast with a lot of force. But part of the reason why he could possibly hit hard, because of his raw speed. Like, he can fight fast, like fight with the powerhouses too. All this speed mixed with all these different abilities. Like, in this occasion, he was like a hybrid form animal creature, but he can also multiply his reaction speed times 10. There's plenty of cases where he got a dodge for his life in combat, use his speed, and even using the environment to his advantage to get underwater advantages over beings with speed, to go under the water because you know that's your playground, because you can turn into sea creature power. You can get sea creatures powers and stuff, then use that to grab beings like this off guard and take them underwater. It implied that he uses his speed in combat here, like as weights. Like, you see him use, it's like a blur. The writers drew a blur effect to let you know that he's hitting them with super speed, kinda. Hitting Thanagarians. Imagine being able to move so fast to where you're like right here and you jump so fast and powerful that you pretty much vanish. They can't even see which direction you went. That's how fast he leaped. Faster than the eye can see. Like, guys, this is way faster than eyesight can see. Like, how are you this big of a person? Everybody's looking at you directly, and you jump so fast that they can't see which direction you jump. They don't even know to look up. They say, where'd he go? Like, it lets you know he can jump so fast, they can't even tell he jumped upward. That's an idea of his speed. How fast do you think somebody will be if they hit you way faster than the speed of light? Like, he's really fast. By using the power of a sun eater, he can fly across space in an instant, they say, way faster than the speed of light, crossing interstellar distances at an absurd amount of speed. So he can fly far faster than the speed of light. Yeah, so you know he's ridiculously fast, way faster than the speed of light, probably massively faster than the speed of light by thousands and millions, if we're being honest, like other DC powerhouses. You know, it makes sense. But remember earlier how I brought up the Sun Eater? Back to the topic of Sun Eaters. Sun Eaters are technically aliens. So similar to how he can copy the power of Sun Eaters or just their overall abilities and everything, this kind of lets you know that Animal Man has limitless potential because he can literally access every creature's power in the universe or even alien creatures in the universe. I've already showed plenty of proof in this video he can get power from aliens or creatures anywhere in the universe. It doesn't matter the range of it anywhere in the universe. That brings me to the topic of he could technically be as strong as Kryptonians because all he would have to do is turn into a Kryptonian dog. And based on how powerful I've already talked about Kryptonians on this channel, that would be he would by default, if he's somewhere in the ballpark with Superman, Kryptonian high-end level beings, he would automatically be able to tremble the universe or galaxies with his hits with the amount of power he would technically be able to produce like that. If he can actually turn into a Kryptonian dog, which he technically should be able to do. Watch my Kryptonian videos I have on the channel to really let you understand that yes, being anywhere in these ballparks of these beings' power is absolutely crazy. If he can technically get the power of any Kryptonian or alien creature, Kryptonian dragon or something, we're talking about beings that are a threat for Superman level beings like Brainiac and crap. All Animal Man would have to do is turn into a Kryptonian dog. I mean, Kryptonians can withstand stuff that can blow up solar systems, supernovas times 50 and stuff. Stuff that will literally blow up the solar system. They can contain stuff in their bare hands. These are just small examples of why Animal Man having the potential to be able to turn into a Kryptonian dog would be ridiculous. I mean, you guys know how DC powerhouses can shake the very fabric of the universe with their heads and stuff, like I previously talked about on this channel. Yeah, it just gets crazy when it comes to Animal Man's limitless type of abilities. When it comes to higher end Kryptonians like Superboy was a Black Lantern here. We've seen Crypto do this. All Animal Man has to do is duplicate the powers of Crypto. you get where I'm going with this? Kryptonian tier being. Animal Man has to be a Superman level being at least. I mean, couldn't Animal Man just turn into a Cerberus, a creature that be giving Greek gods issues? And you know, DC has their own version of Cerberus. You remember how earlier how I brought up how he can basically do some hybrid stuff like mixing different creatures' forms together, combining forms of different creatures and having their attributes or abilities? What if Animal Man just decided to create a hybrid form, turn into a Kryptonian dog, and just make a hybrid form, mixing in that power with Cerberus, the Greek mythology superdog that also exists in the DC universe? Couldn't he technically do this and be like a hybrid Kryptonian god creature fusion? I mean, we've seen this guy actually do similar stuff when it comes to mixing creatures. Like, his limits, it really is the writer's imagination. If the writers really just wanted to go crazy with the amount of stuff he could do. Like, there's some overpowered creatures that exist in DC, and if he can technically turn into that stuff, alien creatures, all that stuff is at his disposal. I mean, couldn't he just turn into Cerberus, mix that in with the Kryptonian dog, and even become, I don't know, turning into Medusa or something, mixed with all these different forms? Like, you see the limitless potential Animal Man got? He can possibly even surpass all our favorite characters, even main cast members of the Justice League. I mean, he could technically turn into creatures that give Wonder Woman issues, like, you know, Medusa, the different Greek lore type creatures, stuff like that. His potential is limitless. I mean, he doesn't even have to rely on tapping into the power of the energy of the creatures. He could just literally use the energy field itself and blast you with that red energy. And like I brought up earlier, he can create not only animals, but a universe, like one of the three working together with the red. This energy manipulation, this can kind of give you an idea of how much energy he can literally produce outward if he could just make a universe. They had to make a brand new universe out of their imagination to trap this certain being in this particular fight they was in. And they can literally create a universe. Like, he's 1/3 the power needed to create a universe. Thanks to this power known as the red, yes, this universe making creation stuff, this can kind of get an idea if he can just generate this kind of energy. This could give you an idea of what his blast power could be too. If he can just use the red to create a whole new universe to trap somebody in. Like 1/3 being to help do this. This kind of lets you know all that galaxy trembling stuff, it kind of adds up with his lore being up there with the powerhouses, channeling straight up energy blast from the red itself. It just makes all the sense in the world for Animal Man to be up there with the powerhouses of DC, creating a universe. But what do you guys think? Do you respect Animal Man? He's been through a lot of adventures. He's been a Black Lantern, he's been a White Lantern. He can do classic powerhouse stuff like resisting black holes with certain creatures, alien creatures of the universe. He can use any creature, fly interstellar distances in an instant, give himself claws, can regenerate full arms, has different forms where he can fuse different creatures or different animals in one, hybrid modes. Everything you can think of. He has absurd stamina. You know the 9 yards. But before I get going, everybody, I got to say thanks for the donations, everybody. Respect Animal Man. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.